another episode of Going All In, Get the Edge You Need to Succeed. I'm Dr. Erin McKinley, and today we have another awesome spotlight session with Sherry Foret and Ashley Gary from the Nicholls State University Dietetic Internship based in Thibodaux, Louisiana. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. All right, Sherry, Ashley, I'm going to hand it right to you to go right into your presentation.
Okay, thank you. Well, as Ms. McKinley said, my name is Sherry Foret, and I am the DI program coordinator at Nicholls State University, and I'm also an assistant professor in dietetics in the undergraduate program. So a little bit about me. I've been a registered dietitian for 20 years. Yeah, I'm old. And I've been teaching for 8 years. And prior to that, I worked in the hospital setting, and I have done outpatient, I've done food service, I've done clinical, I've done a little bit of everything. I did my internship at North Oaks Medical Center. I got my master's at Louisiana Tech and my doctorate at UL just recently. And I think that's really all I have to say about myself. So, Ashley.
I'm Ashley Gary. I am the clinical instructor for the Nicholls Internship program. I have about 10 years experience in clinical dietetics. I've pretty much always worked as a clinical dietitian. And I'm a former CNSC, Certified Nutrition Support Clinician. And before I came here, I worked as head of the nutrition support team at the hospital where I had worked. And then when I came here, we moved here to Thibodaux, and I found this job, and I've been teaching as a clinical instructor here since the program's conception about 4 years ago.
Okay. So our goals and mission of the program include preparing graduates to be entry-level dietitians, and those are graduates who are self-directed, they're accountable, and professional dietitians. And we also promote professional leadership and service in the dietetics community. So this is kind of our mission and the goals of our program. So the requirements to be accepted in the program are a DPD verification statement or a letter of intent. Most of you usually have a letter of intent when you're finished with the DPD program, unless someone finished years ago, then they would have or last year, they would have a verification statement. The minimum GPA overall is 3.0. And we use a calculation for the DPD, GPA, and the GRE. And the reason we do this is because I find sometimes students have a really good DPD, GPA, but they might not do so well on GRE, or vice versa. They might do really well on the GRE, but then their DPD, GPA is not that great. So it kind of gives you a little cushion in that calculation. So it's the DPD, GPA times 20 plus the verbal plus the quantitative on the GRE. And the reason we do require the GRE is because you do get graduate credits for the internship classes. You also have to complete the application in DICAS and participate in the D&D digital matching. Once it's accepted, we do require vaccinations, health insurance, and liability insurance. And just so you know, the vaccinations, we have had students come to us that had no vaccines. If you're applying anywhere to any internship, you're probably going to have some hospital experience, and hospitals require all of the vaccinations. So you really need to, if you don't have them, I encourage you to start getting them now, because it's quite a process. I think the process for the hepatitis B is like, after you get the first one, you 6 months for the next one. And not that if you started the process, it's okay. You can finish it during the internship, but it's really a good idea to start getting them if you don't have any now. We do require the flu vaccine for working in the hospital as well. So some facts about our program: you do earn 15 credits toward a master's degree. Not all programs, though, accept all 15. Like if you do the internship here and then you apply for a master's program elsewhere, they may only accept 9 credits, but it is graduate credits, so it is worth something. Our program begins in June and ends in May of each year. And we do have a medical nutrition therapy focus. We do focus on the nutrition focused physical exam. Ashley and I both have been trained in doing the exam. So you're very prepared to do it when you're out in your internship and when you start working. We provide approximately 1,240 hours, and you can see the breakdown here, approximately 560 clinical. It doesn't always work this way. It just depends on, it depends on that year and what rotations we have available. 440 food service, 240 about for clinical. We have been matching 12 students each year. I know our program is approved for 14, but we're still working on building our sites and getting more locations to be able to accept that 14. The tuition is $10,000 and it's paid in 3 installments of $3,333, and one semester is an extra $1 because it comes, that's the way it breaks out. So you would pay that in the summer session, in the fall, and in the spring. So it's like you're registering for 3 classes. So it's broken up that way. Now, just a word about financial aid. We don't we can't apply for the federal student loans here because it's a lot of red tape with the university, and because we're not granting a degree, we can't really get the federal financial aid, but our students do get personal loans like Sally Mae to pay for their tuition. So that has worked out pretty good also. So the costs are, again, the tuition, the graduate school application. Once you're accepted to the program, you have to apply to the graduate school because we do grant graduate credit, and that's a $20 fee. The academy membership is required. Malpractice insurance runs about $50 to $80. The background check and drug screen is required, and we use a company called Castle Branch, and they also verify immunization records too. So it's about $90 for all 3 of those. And if you have to get immunization, that'll cost, unless you're covered by your insurance. The health department provides a lot of these immunizations for just like a one-time $10 fee for injections or whatever. So maybe look into that if you don't yet have insurance. Housing, it depends if you're living here. We have had in the past interns live together, so that's an option too. We try to get everybody in touch with everybody, right, in the beginning, so that if you want to, cohabitat with others, you can, or you can get your own apartment. Campus parking is $50 a year, and while you're not on campus a whole lot, it's enough to need that parking pass. So we do require that. Books, required books. The student tracking system, we use a system called Typhon. This is where the schedules are and the evaluations are, and where you turn in all of your assignments. So that, the Visual Veggies subscription, which is an RD practice exam, and the Nutrition Care Process Terminology subscription, which is an e-script. Between those 3, it'll cost you about $200 to $500 a year. And then uniforms, depending on how many are purchased. Our uniform is scrubs. So we have a red top and a black bottom. So that's what we wear. And it, depending on how many you get, it might cost you $100 or more. And we do require attendance at a conference. So either FNCE or LAN, which this year FNCE's in New Orleans. So it probably will be very encouraged since it's close by and local. Hopefully it'll be in person and not virtual, but we don't know yet. So one of those are required, but not both. So we usually do that. And then the RD exam course, we do require that you take a course, and we go in with Tulane and Southern, and we do the breeding exam review, and that's $500 to do that. And that has been virtual. That's going to be virtual this year, and it was virtual last year. So if it's not virtual, then we usually rent a place, which costs about $50 a person. They'll rent a place and have food and stuff. So it covers all the expenses for that. And I guess you're up, Ashley.
I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the rotations themselves. Our clinical rotations, you're with me. That's our program is a little bit unique in the fact that we have a clinical instructor. You are with me for about 2 months, 2.5 months at a hospital in the area. And the way we work is that you utilize me as the instructor rather than the facility's dietitian. We do this because we found that it works really well to free up the responsibility from the facility dietitian, and it allows me to really kind of take time and discuss, and we analyze and really teach you why you're doing things the way that you're doing things rather than just being told what to do. We think it's kind of a unique asset that we have at ours rather than traditional internships where they send you to work with the facilities dietitian. We have, in addition to the 8 to 10 weeks of clinical rotations with me, you have 2 weeks of moderate supervision and 2 weeks of staff relief at an alternate site. The moderate supervision rotation is set up in order to give you some time to become accustomed to the new facility and learn how they do, their charting and things like that, so that you can be comfortable and feel equipped to complete your 2 weeks of staff relief at that alternate site. You also have in your clinical rotations 2 weeks of renal rotations, where you work with, we use Fresenius, which is a dialysis clinic, and you'll spend 2 weeks working with one of their dietitians. And all of your clinical rotations run approximately 36 to 40 hours a week. We are at the hospital, at the facility for most of that time. There will be a few weeks where you are on campus for half day, where we may do case study presentations or simulation, things like that. We do 1 week of orientation and have an NFPE seminar. That's kind of helps us focus on the NFPE. We do a lot of it in simulation at first in order to get you used to performing the process and used to how it actually goes on in simulation, so that you're more comfortable for when you actually perform it on the patients in the hospital. The other unique factor about our clinical settings is that it's a group setting. So we split our 10 interns up into two groups of 5 for each semester. So in a fall semester, you'll be either in the clinical group or in the food service community group. If you're in the clinical group, you, along with 4 other interns, will all be together every day at the hospital. So we all work together, and you all learn from each other, and you all, observe each other and give each other feedback, and we all kind of perform our duties on a daily basis in a group setting. Potential experiences. I try to work with the hospital and allow for you guys to see swallow studies or PEG placements or endoscopies as the hospital schedule allows and as COVID restrictions allow. So it's not required as part of the internship, it's just offered when available. Assignments that you might have to do as far as clinical rotations go include additional case studies, an in-service, presentations, a mini NFPE seminar that you would give on your own. We do have multiple assignments in addition to your daily duties as at the clinical sites, because we do provide graduate credits. So those assignments are there to help you accrue that graduate credit. A food service is another large part of your experience in Nicholls internship. The rotations take place at multiple sites, including large and small and small scale hospital operations, nursing home, retail, commercial food service at a local cafe that's owned by an RD in our area. We have school food service as well. So it's a variety of different settings in the food service experience. And assignments might include the theme meal. That's a big one. And it's very comprehensive in terms of food service management experience, because you do everything in terms of you start planning the meal, you do cost analysis breakdown, you set up schedules, you procure the food, you supervise the the management of the food, and then cleanup and everything in between. So you're really acting as the manager that day that you do your theme meal. So it's a very comprehensive food service management experience. Another big one is the quality improvement project, where you observe and research an obstacle or problem that the site you're in is facing or dealing with, and you compose a proposal in order to fix it or improve upon it. So all of your food service experiences really try to center around the management side of food service. Community rotations also exist in multiple various sites. We do a WIC rotation. We have an outpatient rotation. We have an LSU co-op extension. And we have a summer camp. We didn't get to do that last year because of coronavirus, but we typically have a summer camp that is done by the dietitian who has that retail food service operation I discussed earlier. So that's a little bit of kids' experience. We work with a grocery store dietitian, and experiences within all those community rotations include things like farmers markets, conducting wellness presentations and classes in the community, possibly doing grocery store tours and cooking demonstrations with the grocery store dietitian. We also do a couple of info sessions or observation days with the dietitian for the Saints, and then also at a correctional facility that's nearby. So they're very unique little experiences. And I know in the beginning when we started offering the correctional facility one, everybody was a little bit nervous and did not know what to expect, but it ended up being one of their favorite days. They really liked the preceptor there. So that's a good experience. We are also looking into additional rotations to fit in an oncology rotation as well as a fitness nutrition rotation. So we're looking into adding those, and hopefully that'll come to fruition for the start of the next school year.
All right. So the schedule, we do follow the university academic calendar. Somewhat, we have what's called a part of term semester. So our fall semester begins earlier than the university semester, and we extend it all the way to the summer session, the spring session. So fall is a longer, and that's just so that we can get enough hours in. But don't panic, you do get holidays, and I'm gonna tell you about that. So 36 to 40 hours a week is typically what you work in this internship. It is full-time. The holidays that you would be off would be 4th of July, Thanksgiving week, Christmas. That depends on, you may have definitely Christmas week, but you may have some time around it also, just depending on what you have done or what needs to be done. Sometimes students need to catch up on some hours for whatever reason, and then this is some times that they could use. We typically have Mardi Gras off, 3 days for Mardi Gras and a week for spring break. So those are the typical times off during the whole school year. So completion requirements, you do have to meet all the learning objectives or the competencies that are in the Ascend core competencies, and we share that with you. You have to earn a 4 or higher on a 5-point scale on the learning objectives at each rotation. And you also have to earn a grade of B or higher each semester. And the grade is actually calculated using your evaluations and your time recorded, and just you meeting the competencies, and also the quizzes. We do require weekly quizzes that are based off of the visual veggies. So that's where that subscription comes in. And an intern must complete a minimum of 1,200 supervised practice hours. Right now, it's temporarily decreased because of COVID, and it's 1,000. I'm not sure how long that's going to be the case, if Ascend's going to change that, or if it'll go back to 1,200. So, but that's what's in our policy anyway, that we're going to do 1,200 hours. So, and that's, I think, I went too far. Yeah, and these are just some of the experiences that the interns have had. This is with the Saints. This is a completion ceremony. And I'm thinking this is the the clinical or completion.
That was on their last day. They were toasting with nutritional supplements. They were taste testing oral nutrition supplements.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, yep. That's our program, and we look forward to getting your applications and ready to answer any questions you guys may have.
All right, thank you so much for that information. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into the 5 questions that I ask all the directors that join us here on the podcast. And since there are 2 of you, you can decide however you like as far as answering. So these questions were put together with the help of the LSU students. I really wanted to take their ideas into consideration as far as what they really wanted to know from directors about their programs and about applying to their programs and what you're looking for in applicants. So the first question is, what do you love to see or you especially love to see when you're reading a personal statement?
I'll take that one since I am on the selection committee. I kind of 2 things. Personally, I like to see correct grammar and punctuation in the personal statement as well as professional writing. But also more so, I like to see that it's been personalized for Nicholls in some way. So yes, I want to hear why you want to be an RD, what started your journey to becoming a dietitian, but I'd also really like to know why specifically you chose to apply to Nicholls. So those would be the things that I would really like to see.
Sherry, you want to add anything to that at all?
Well, I'm not on the committee, the selection committee, so I don't really have a say in that or preference. I mean, I agree with what Ashley said as far as I think it should be professional and, correct. And I do like to see why you want to come to Nicholls. I mean, we love Nicholls and we want you guys to want to come to Nicholls. So I do like to see that too.
All right, perfect. Well, my second question is a true or false question. So true or false, an applicant's resume should be 1 page and 1 page only. Either way, why?
I would say false because an applicant's resume may be longer depending on what kind of experience they've done. I don't like limiting that. I mean, I'm okay with a 1-page resume as long as it's complete and it's current and it's what you've done and, it's relevant to what your goals are, but I don't, it doesn't have to be 1 page.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you have relevant experience and relevant things to put on there and it ends up being more than 1 page, great. But I wouldn't fluff it up with all kinds of other information that doesn't, that isn't relevant.
All right. So what is one thing that an applicant may do that you sort of look at as a red flag or maybe a total deal breaker to where you would kind of think maybe this applicant isn't a good fit for our program?
For me, we can go back to the personal statement, and if it's written in a professional manner, if we have a bunch of typos on there, if there's a lot of grammatical mistakes, that's a big red flag to me that you couldn't take the time to edit your personal statement before you turned in your application. And not necessarily would be a deal breaker, but it definitely would be a red flag for me. Another one might be if you have some references that don't necessarily portray you in the best light. We have had applicants before that the references might even just say, I do not recommend, or they kind of skirt the issue and I'll recommend them, but maybe I'm not their biggest fan. So make sure you get references of people that are gonna, paint you in a positive light.
Yes. I would have to agree with that. And while it's not a deal breaker, we do require a video interview, and the questions are on our website for you to do the video. It's a pre-recorded thing that you email to me. I do not like background music. So it's distracting. Most of the time when students play it on their videos, you can't hear what they're saying. So, and keep in mind, where you are when you're doing your video, what's hanging behind you or on the wall, or, pay attention to those kinds of things too. And, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to have the white wall. I mean, I've had videos where a student was outside under a tree. I mean, it's fun. It's great. Whatever you want, just make sure there's not a lot of wind blowing that we could hear you in your video. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Right. So what is one area of the internship program that you're actively working on trying to make even better for the interns?
Well, as we said in the video, as Ashley mentioned, we're looking into new rotations. So we're constantly looking for new experiences for our interns, like the oncology and the fitness. I'm also trying to get a bariatrics rotation in too. So we're working on a contract with that facility. So just trying to improve. We always ask the interns opinions about what you liked about the internship, what you didn't like, and how can we better prepare you? How can we, give you the best experiences? And we do listen. We do make changes. So you're not just saying it just to say it. We do consider what they tell us.
All right. So then my last question's a two-parter. And so the first part is, what are the 3 best adjectives, descriptors, phrases that you feel best describes your program as a whole?
I'd say first and foremost, unique, because we have me as the clinical instructor. Very few internships do their experiences in that way. Like I said, normally you go and you work with the facility dietitian, but since you have me throughout the whole clinical rotation, teaching and helping you along the way. So I think that's unique. And also that we do the NFPE quite a bit. We do a seminar on that, and we try to work it in on as many patients as possible in the hospital. So you get a good basis of knowledge on that too. So I think unique would be a good one. Let's see, maybe compassion, I guess, because Nicholls is a very small institution, and a lot of our undergrads are first generation college students that they may require more support than what a large facility or a large institution is sometimes willing to provide. So that kind of flows over into our graduate faculty and our internship faculty, in that while we're not going to hold your hand, you are expected to be independent. We do provide a good support system for you and help you along your journey to be successful. So, we all are we talk a lot, and we communicate a lot, and we communicate well, and we try to be there for each other. And I mean, when I say each other, I mean the interns and the faculty. So I think, compassion would be a good one. Do you have another one, Sherry?
Well, I was going to just reflect on what you say, that it said that, interns in the past have said they liked that our program is small and they don't feel like a number. And they like that we are compassionate. I mean, we've had interns who've lost a family member, and, we work with you, and sick kids. We understand that kind of stuff. And we're small enough that you can come to us and talk to us about anything. And interns also tell me they love having the clinical instructor, because it helps them to build confidence before they have to do it on their own.
So maybe we could say family oriented or close knit or something, because we all we do work very closely together, and all the dietitians that are preceptors in the area, we all know them all pretty well. So we all communicate really well with each other, so we know what's going on, and it's never that we're sending you out somewhere where we have no idea what you're doing. And you all kind of become a little family, you and your fellow interns, especially in your clinical groups, because you have the group setting. So you're with each other a lot in your clinical rotation. So you have each other to lean on and support each other. So you kind of become a little family in that aspect as well.
And our dietetics community, the preceptors are very supportive of our program. So they do well for us.
All right. Well, I can speak personally from having a clinical instructor for my very first clinical rotation that it is nice to run to somebody that you're comfortable with to ask a question that you think is embarrassing, and they'll assure you it's not embarrassing, tell you the answer, and then say next time go ask the RD because you can ask that question. So I will speak from experience for students that aren't familiar with that. It's nice. It's very nice. All right. Last part of my last question, very similar to the first. 3 adjectives or descriptors or phrases to describe your ideal applicant.
Motivated would be a big one for me, I guess. While it might be nice, to have an intern that knows all the things and nutrition wise, I'd rather have somebody that's motivated. You are kind of expected to perform on your own. So having that self-motivation and the ability to go out and you find things for yourself to do in your rotations. You don't just ask or wait to be told what to do. You're proactive and you put yourself out there and you actively find ways to improve yourself and your performance. So I think, motivation would be my top one. Let's see what else.
Independence, someone who could work independently. And I just want to say on the motivation too, every rotation is not going to be your favorite, and that's okay, but you have to meet all the competencies. So you just need to, tough it out and work toward it. And this is your opportunity to get as much experience as you possibly can. So the harder you work toward it, the more motivated you are, like Ashley said, the better experience you're going to have. You make the experience in those rotations.
Yeah, so positivity, I guess that would be another one for me. Because like she said, the rotation or the internship experience is largely a part of what you make it. So if you come into it with a positive attitude, you're much more likely to have a great experience. If you come into it with a negative attitude or a sour outlook on everything, probably not going to be a great experience, no matter how wonderful it actually is in reality. So positivity, and especially I know this past year has probably taught a lot of us a good lesson in positivity and maintaining a positive outlook when things get a little tough, or like she said, if it's not your favorite rotation, you may never want to be a clinical dietitian. Well, you got to do clinical rotation. So keeping an open mind and a positive outlook is paramount, I think.
All right, we're going to move on to some questions from the students that have entered them in the chat. You can enter more questions if you have them. So I guess with this first question, I'll kind of reword it. Not taking preselects into consideration, how many applicants do you get through DICUS for the program?
Yeah, I guess that varies. I'm trying to think. 35 comes to mind, 40. I can't remember exactly, but about that. I mean, we're a fairly new program, so to say we get a ton of applicants, we can't say that. We're not well known. We're only on our 4th cohort right now. So
yeah, it's usually around 30 to 40, somewhere around there.
That's what I'm thinking.
Kind of how it varies year to year, but yeah.
I wanted to mention, and it's not approved yet, but I'm so excited about it. We did write a proposal for a master's program, so the next group of students may be able to take a course toward a master's degree. We're hoping that it'll be available in the fall of 21. So it's in the works, but it's not been approved yet, but I just wanted to throw it out there.
Something to look forward to. So each year, do y'all usually max out your preselects and take 7 to where there are limited spaces left for actual match?
No.
Not every year. Mm-hmm. We have on 1 or 2, and then we haven't on the other 2. So not every year.
All right. So another question in the chat, are hospital rotations mainly done at Thibodeau Regional?
No, they're not. We actually, we work at another hospital called Chabert Hospital, but Thibodeau is now going to be one of our staff relief sites. So that is one of our sites.
We also use Terrebonne General Medical Center in Houma, and as Ashley said, Chabert is in Houma, and we use St. Anne in Raceland and Tash in Morgan City. So it's all like within a 50-mile radius of Nicholls, of the campus. So they're close by.
So since the internship is full-time, are students able to work while they're with you? Do you advise against that? Have you had students be successful in managing some side hustles? How's that working out?
We have had a couple that have maintained a job, but I always tell students, I mean, it's not that we tell you can't, but you do have to be a special kind of person in order to hold down a job as well as complete your rotations, because they are full-time rotations, and you do have assignments in addition to your rotations, especially in your clinical semester. So it is possible, but you do have to be a very motivated and dedicated individual in order to make it work.
I think we've had students mainly work weekends, and it's not that you never have a weekend rotation, because the grocery store rotation is a weekend, and maybe some others, but it's not impossible to work it in the schedule, is what I mean. So if you do need to have a job, we understand that.
All right. Well, I saw on the slide about the fees for the program. This was a new one, that you require the malpractice insurance. Why is that? I'm just very curious.
Well, most hospitals require it in the contract that they have the liability, the malpractice insurance to work in their facility.
All right, Taylor has a question that she'd like to ask.
Hi, I'm Taylor. Did y'all ever have students complete an online master's program when they were doing their DI at the same time?
We haven't had anybody do that so far. Is it possible? Kind of the same thing would go along with the job thing. It's not impossible, but you have to be very motivated and dedicated. And if your master's, well, if it's completely online, that's one thing. But if you had to, go to class at any time, we do typically run a 36 to 40 hour week most weeks out of the year. So you would have to take that into consideration too.
Yeah, it would be easier to do it online.
Oh yeah,
than in class, for sure. Time-wise, I mean.
All right, good question, Taylor. All right, I just have maybe one or two more. So with the requirements of doing the exam review, what does Nicholls RD exam pass rate look like?
Good question. Well, our exam pass rate as of December is at 70%. And now keep in mind, that's only the first two classes. We're only on cohort 4. Of our last graduating class, we had 5 take the exam and 5 pass the exam. The first year, we did not require any studying, no review course, nothing. The second year, we required the review course. So we've seen the pass rates improve. And in the third year, we also added the visual veggies to the exam review. So I think our numbers will definitely improve on our next report.
Yeah, it's looking that, like she said, we've had 5 take it so far from this last cohort, and all 5 have passed their first time. So our numbers will improve.
And similar to that, how about the job placement rate?
It's been good. It's been pretty good. I think we have 5 this last group that had jobs right away. And our past classes have done quite well. Now, some of them were from out of state. It's a little bit more competitive when everybody's from here and applying for the same jobs. But we haven't had issues with people not finding jobs for a long period of time. I mean, they eventually come. But usually the job placement, I want to say our first cohort, almost all of them had jobs when they left here. So that was pretty good, I think.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's had any issues other than if they've been from this area. There's just, the jobs in this particular area of Louisiana, Thibodaux and Houma, they are not few and far between, but they're not plentiful. And a lot of the people who stay here because they have family or they have kids or husbands who's, they work here, so they don't want to leave or maybe, commute to New Orleans. So that would be the only problem that they've had in finding placement. But yeah, we've had pretty much everybody. No issues with that.
Yeah, I always get job openings forwarded to me from different facilities. So if somebody's willing to, like Ashley said, drive to New Orleans, Baton Rouge, or maybe even move, the jobs are there. It just depends on your situation.
All right, to close us out this evening, Sherry and Ashley each give us one last take home for potential applicants this year or next year or any year after.
Okay. Like I've said multiple times, work on your application. Make sure there's no errors in there. Present yourself in a professional manner. Get references from people who you know are gonna paint you in a good light. Be motivated. Stay open-minded and positive, and we'd love to meet you next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to add to what Ashley said, be prepared to work independently and be professional. And remember that this is your opportunity to get as much experience as possible from your rotation sites.
All right. Well, I thank both of you for being with us on this episode this evening. And for those at home, if you're interested in getting more information on the DI program at Nicholls State University and to get in touch with Sherry or Ashley, I provided the link to their program in the description below this video. And as always, don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you never miss another episode with an awesome dietetic internship. And we'll see you next time.